Welcome to Just a Cup on Believe. I am Bryan Fetzer. This is an organic conversation with some of the world's greatest athletes and some of the individuals that help put them in that position. And today I am very fortunate to have as our guest Mark Koesterer, who is the founder of the Players NIL. And we're going to talk all about name, image, and likeness. What a trending topic. Mark, thanks for joining us and sharing a little bit about it.
Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so the whole concept, how did you come up with the concept, or why did you come up with, starting a company to help individuals with name, image, and likeness?
Yeah, it's probably been a lifelong journey. So I'll start at the beginning. I was the son of a junior high gym teacher and a fourth grade teacher. And so education was always part of my life. I was a decent high school athlete, but it was during that period of time when my father instilled upon me the first principle of our business, and that is, how do you use athletics to better your life? And for me, it was an opportunity to play Division II football at a small school in the Midwest. I was not a Division I athlete. I was not a superstar, but I got a scholarship. And as far as my father was concerned, I had fulfilled that legacy, that dream. And so, greatest opportunities of your life, college athletics. You were a college coach, so you understand, lifetime friends. Many years later, we still give each other a hard time 3 times a week on a text chain. Just the life skills and all the adversity and all the things that athletics provide. And I always caveat this with, there are different ways to do that. It could be math or science or music or fashion, culinary, whatever it may be. For me and for my life, it's been sports. At some point, your career ends. And so, it was then that I started a family, and I developed the second principle of our business, which is, how do you use athletics to better the lives of the people around you? And so, although I was involved in professional corporate life, I always had a passion and an interest in youth sports and activities in the community. Gave back, was involved in several programs, one of which has put 250 kids in college today. In 2008, I got an opportunity to marry my passion and my 2 principles with my career. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I became CEO of a sports and entertainment company called Sports Studio. And we produced all of the scripted sports in Hollywood. So movies, TV shows, commercials, feature films. It was there that I learned about agents and sponsorship, group licensing, production, all the things that go into sports marketing. We sold that business in June of 21. The restrictions on name, image, and likeness were removed July 1st, 2021. And so it all came together, and I created a company based on education.
Wow. That's okay. We got to go back, because you fascinated me with the company that, did all the productions in sports. I mean, what were some movies that you guys did?
Well, the history of the company goes back to 1979. Any Given Sunday, Replacement, Miracles, We Are Marshall. I personally worked on Moneyball, 42, Draft Day, Space Jam. And so we did all the scripted sports. So, we didn't do Boy Kisses Girl. We didn't do car chases. We didn't do live games, but we recreated sports. And we did everything involved with that: wardrobe, props, casting, choreography, product placement. And my claim to fame was we were the first and only licensed partner to do that for the NFL, NBA, MLB. So if you were a NFL sponsor, for instance, and you wanted to create a commercial, you had to come to us for anything related to NFL marks. All of the casting, choreography, product placement, the sports action. And it was brands that use sports to tell stories. Boy kicks a goal and scores the win, misses the goal and they lose. Strikes out on a baseball diamond versus home run, right? We use sports to tell a story. And it was the beginning of social media around 2012 that it really became popular, because we now became really very, very familiar with our famous athletes and our idols. Before that, we would go to a game, we'd see a print ad in a newspaper or magazine, Sports Illustrated, for instance. Maybe there was a commercial for a couple of people, but we didn't know who they were. And social media gave us that window into recognizing who Kobe Bryant was, and LeBron James, and Tom Brady, and Drew Brees, and Troy Polamalu, and Cam Newton, and all these athletes that I worked with. And so the use of athletes as celebrities, as influencers, from 2012 to today has been a steep trajectory. And that's my background.
Well, that gives such a great basis for helping student athletes. you've seen the background. You've seen, I mean, Moneyball is my favorite movie of all time. Just throwing that plug in there for you. It's a great one. But, you know, having that experience of, like you said, working with agents, working with studios, understanding the link between pop culture and sports, it has to be an amazing advantage, per se, to be able to educate individuals about name, image, and likeness. That's what it is.
Well, I saw athletes as influencers at the highest level, you know, world-class athletes that use their celebrity for, you know, personal development, for professional development, for financial reasons, for community reasons. You know, LeBron James, you know, started his school in Akron during that time. You know, we did a bunch of Nike commercials with him. And, you know, he constantly talked about, you know, how lucky he was to climb out of that situation. You know, single mom, wrong side of the tracks, Akron, Ohio, God-given talents. But we know lots of people, and you coached in college, so not every athlete with talent was successful, right? Not every athlete fulfilled their dream or their promise. And so to see athletes that took advantage of that and created opportunities for others and gave back was very instrumental. And in 2021, this was the kicker that put me over the edge in terms of knowing what I wanted to do. My father, the junior high gym teacher at age 86, passed away. And in writing his eulogy, I realized how much he had done in the community. Never owned a business, never ran for community office, never employed anyone, yet hundreds of people came to his funeral at age 86. He had had a profound impact on society, on his community, on his church, on his hospital, local hospital. And the word legacy came up to me, Brian. And I thought to myself, not enough kids think about their legacy, and not enough are driven by leaving a legacy. And I challenge young people today, you know, if what you have today was taken away, would anyone care tomorrow? And what is your legacy? Would anyone know who you are other than you scored touchdowns, you hit home runs, you ran at a certain time in a 100-meter dash? You know, what is your legacy? Who are the people you affected? And what is the lasting memories that people will have of you? And it's a pretty powerful message.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can think of, I mean, my father was a high school football coach as well. And I remember as a young kid being on the sidelines and thinking that these individuals were bigger than life. And then come back when I went to when they got inducted in the Pennsylvania Football Hall of Fame, looking at the guys and me looking them eye to eye, or actually looking down on them going, man, I'm 6 foot tall. These guys were tiny back in high school. But as a kid, I looked up and I saw that. And you see it so many times with, it doesn't matter what sport it is. You know, the students, younger kids looking up to college athletes in different ways, shapes, forms, and sports. And I agree 100% with the legacy part. That's so true.
Yeah. I remember to your point, I remember in junior high getting on the bus to go to a high school varsity game. You know, the fans loaded the school bus and we drove where it was, you know, screaming and yelling and cheering. And you're right. I mean, to me, they were gods, right? They walked on water. And then when I became a varsity athlete, I look back at those junior high kids. And it was, just like you said, it was pretty crazy.
Absolutely. So with the educational piece, I mean, you guys do, it's interesting that the more that I learn about name, image, and likeness, there's all kind of avenues. There's the individuals that are literally like agents that, you know, they do the same things that, you know, you see it in the pro ranks, people coming from college, going to the pros, trying to hustle and trying to sign individuals. But then there's the educational piece. And I would say that the vast majority of people out there don't really understand the whole concept of the image and likeness. And that's, I mean, it's one of the big parts of what your company does is educate individuals on the concepts.
Yeah. So I'll give you a quick little history lesson. So, you know, name, image, and likeness is what we call it today. But, you know, professional athlete sponsorship has been around forever. Go back to Babe Ruth, right? You know, advertising Coca-Cola and cigarettes probably. And, you know, those of us of a certain age, we grew up with, you know, idols, whether it was, you know, you're from Pennsylvania, so it might have been the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if you're from Western PA, but
absolutely.
Yeah, the Steel Curtain, Mean Joe Green and Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw, all of those great Hall of Famers. So professional athletes have been using their name, image, and likeness to make money and to create sponsorship deals forever. We always had a line in the sand between amateur athletics and professional athletics. You're in track and field. Forever, the Olympics were deemed an amateur event. And we competed against, around the world, athletes that were sponsored by and paid for by their respective governments, i.e. the Russians, primarily.
Right.
And in 1992, the Barcelona Olympics, for the first time ever, the U.S. sent a group of professional basketball players, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley and company, and they dominated the Olympics. And that was the end of the amateur era in Olympic sports, essentially. We then realized that, that was, old school and we needed to move on. The NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, never moved, okay? Right. And the O'Bannon case, which was essentially a case that pitted a basketball player from UCLA against the NCAA for the use of his name, image, and likeness in a video game, began a snowball effect of lawsuits, to which the NCAA could not defend, nor did they adapt to reconcile. And in 2001, they caved. The NCAA literally threw their hands up in the air and said, okay, anyone can do anything that they want. So they didn't do us any favors, because they released the hounds, as they say. And you know enough about college athletics, and our audience does too. You give people with power and money and a passion for their university the opportunity to legally influence recruiting and retention, they're going to take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. And so this mindset of the booster club on steroids, as I call it, that we commonly refer to today as collectives, was born the summer of 2021 when everyone pounced on the opportunity. Of course, the news sensationalized that. That's all that you saw. That's all that you talked about.
Yeah.
So a couple of things have happened along the way. The pendulum of life swings back and forth. We're still in the crazy stage of college athletics, but it is for three sports. It's for football and men's and women's basketball, okay? The majority of the collectives in the country are based on supporting that. Unfortunately, simultaneous to this NCAA releasing the hounds, they also removed restrictions on transfers. And so now you have incredible funding to attract athletes. You have total free agency in terms of movement, and one-year contracts. You have a professional system. Okay, unintended, but that's the result.
Right.
But it's for what I refer to as the 2%ers, and that's football, men's, and women's basketball. We're a little bit focused today on non-revenue sports, specifically Olympic sports. So let's talk about those kids, because they are not funded by collectives in general. And the general concept is that they are pure, or what I call realistic NIL student athletes. In other words, their deals are not based on running fast and jumping high. Their deals are based on 80% of NIL deals in the first 3 years based on social media, 60% based on local businesses. So real NIL, which is what I coach and teach and preach, is those non-revenue sports, Olympic athletes, actually creating a brand, creating value in the marketplace, and leveraging that with a sponsor. And so I focus on the 98%, not the 2%. That's a quick history lesson of how we got to and where we are today.
So it's like realities. When people hear name, image, and likeness, what I've heard from friends that like sports but don't really understand sports, they think, well, they signed a name, image, and likeness deal. They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1 million. These amounts that are crazy. What's the reality of name, image, and likeness deals?
I think Open Doors just came out with a report that said that the median price, which means half were above and half were below, was $650. Okay. So, the news again sensationalizes the Shedeur Sanders and those, that we're familiar with. And it's actually had a negative effect, because those friends of yours and colleagues that maybe aren't up to speed, their image is name, image, and likeness is millions of dollars, that it's caused, this movement around colleges, which was really being blamed on transfer portal. It's caused conference realignment, which really is blamed on media contracts, has nothing to do with NIL. But we now thrown all the bad things about college athletics, perceived bad things, into the NIL bag. So The reality is we coach kids to make between $150 and $500 a month. That's the real NIL business. We hope they can make more, and some do. But that's what the average Division II athlete is, Division III non-revenue sport in a Power 4 conference track and field athlete can expect. Unless they're an Olympic athlete, that would change and skew things. But, the average, top 5 contender in the ACC track and field championships, $500, $700, $1,000 a month, that would be a really good deal.
You're listening to Just a Cup on Believe. If you like the episode so far, please hit the subscribe button, like us, share us. And really with this episode, we're talking about name, image, and likeness. Please share this with, your friends that have, individuals that are getting into college or in college. Mark, my special guest, is the founder of the Players NIL, not to be confused with NLI, which is National Letter of Intent. We're not talking about people signing. We're talking about name, image, and likeness. And Mark is just talking about the realities of how much those are worth. Really, we talked earlier about it's creating a brand for somebody that's not just for now, but helping them network and set themselves up for potential opportunities for jobs down the road.
Yeah, for sure. We say name, image, and likeness should not be a 4-year thing. It should be a 40-year thing. It's a life skills course that I've developed. And we talk about brand, right? People throw the word brand around, and some people think they know what it is, and a lot of people say brand, But to me, the definition of brand is, what do other people think of you? Okay? So what is the perception of you by others, coworkers, employees, community members, teammates, coaches, etc. And so we teach about storytelling. We teach about creating a brand that's authentic, right? That tells your story and that is interesting, because one of the great things that's happened, Brian, in the last 2+ years is, and I didn't plan this, so I can't take credit for it, is the mental health aspect of real NIL education. And here's why. We have such an age of specialization in year-round sports at the youth level today, right? Little League football, Little League baseball, whatever, Pop Warner football, whatever you want to call it, AAU basketball. And these kids are brought up to believe that their whole self-worth and their whole brand is them as an athlete. At some point, that's taken away. For some of them, they never make it to high school, because my next book is titled 12-Year-Olds Win for All the Wrong Reasons. It's about youth sports.
We could talk about that forever.
I
was an administrator at a high school for a couple years, and the amount of talk and pressure that was put on kids in 5th grade and 6th grade, 4th grade. Hey, we've got to win. We got to go have fun. I remember kids sitting in the grass picking clovers during Little League baseball. I mean, they could care less about, winning. It was go have fun. And we've really shifted on that perspective.
Yeah. So their whole self-image when they look in the mirror is that of an athlete. They're told that, they're rewarded that, they get a trophy for that. At some point it ends. Maybe it's the end of high school, maybe it's in college, maybe it's premature because of injury. So when they look in the mirror after their athletic career is over, what do they see? And so what we teach in branding is, what else are you interested in? As we said, is it music? Is it art? Is it science? Who are you as a person? Are you interested in a charitable organization? What are your business interests? And so you can fall back on that as a foundation rather than just be an athlete and when it's taken away, be lost.
What do you see going forward? What are the trends, kind of the next iteration of name, image, and likeness?
Well, the genie's out of the bottle for the top 2%. So we're going to go to, essentially a professional sports model for football and basketball. Exactly what that looks like, I don't know. I tell people my crystal ball broke, so I can't look into the future. When it comes to name, image, and likeness, no one knows. Although there are some settlement proposals between these plaintiffs and the NCAA. We've had a lot of talk around that, what's collectively called the House versus NCAA. We had a setback last week in the settlement. The judge felt that it was not fair to the athletes, the proposed settlement. So those guys and gals are going to continue to be the 2%ers. But I think what's going to happen, and this is what I bet the ranch on in terms of my business interest, is that the 98% are going to realize, hey, I can take advantage of this. I may not make $100,000, but I can make enough money to have supplemental income in college. But more importantly is I can learn how to be an entrepreneur. I can learn how to network. I can learn how to raise money. We teach community service and philanthropy. We teach financial literacy, real life skills. And I believe, and I will predict in 20 years, the leaders of industry, the leaders of our communities, of our society, will even be a greater percentage of college athletes because they will have started their professional life using name, image, and likeness in high school and grown through college, and they will become the natural leaders of all aspects of society.
Wow, it's amazing how sports can really change a society for the better in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, media kind of puts that stigmatism on there for so much of it. But when you're talking about money, are there other opportunities for individuals with the name, image, and likeness? It's not just cash. There's got to be other ways that somebody is sponsoring somebody. Yes or no?
Well, it's focused on money, right? That's what everyone is interested in. Again, we try to teach the value of community service and philanthropy. But here's a basic concept that, is a great way to grow on the field court and off the field or court. How about going back to your local hometown and running a youth camp, right? And giving back to your community, whether it's a pitching camp or a track and field running camp, a training camp, a weightlifting, basketball shooting camp, whatever it may be, and running it as a business, right? Having to market it, having to recruit, having to collect money, perhaps getting a sponsor. Don't forget to pay taxes at the end, then manage the money that you got. You are now an entrepreneur that if I'm an employer, I always liked athletes because I'm an athlete. There's plenty of successful people that weren't athletes, but there's a lot of athletes that are successful. But if I'm looking at two candidates and one has run a business in their hometown and the other just, was on their parents' couch playing video games, who do you think I'm going to hire?
Right. Do colleges bring you guys in to do work with them, or is it just, ad hoc, or do you work with high schools?
Yeah. So right now, 35 plus states have authorized NIL at the high school level. I think eventually it'll be every state. There's some politics involved with that. I believe, and we profess that at age 16 or your junior year in high school is when you should start to build your brand. It's when recruiting starts. It's when you first have contact with coaches. It's when you first go to visit on college campuses. And it takes time to build your brand. Unless you're a superstar that with 5 or 6 posts can get 10,000 followers, it's going to take time to tell your story and build your audience. So juniors in high school, and we sell direct to consumers there, to parents and athletes, an online course called the 5 Pillars course, all the things we described. At the college level, we sell to individual athletes, but most of it is a group licensing program where we supply the course, we come on campus, we do a hybrid model of in-person group lessons and individual coaching because, like it or not, the attention span of my audience is small. And so we can't just say, here, go watch 5 hours of content and tell me what you think. It isn't going to work. Right. So we have to be interactive, and we have to do peer-to-peer lessons and group activities. We try and make it fun. Our online content is 2 to 4 minute videos. They're all animated. They're cartoons, and they cover the 5 pillars of education. And so you can watch it self-paced. You can watch 2 videos on your way to class. You can watch 1 at night before you go to bed. You can take 2 weeks. You can take 2 months. You can do it in 2 days. So that's our market.
Have you found that coaches, have you had coaches approach you and say, hey, I want you to come talk to our teams, or are they kind of apprehensive on it?
More the latter. And so again, because of the negativity surrounding what people think NIL is, we call it the Heisman, right? They put their hands up. I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to do it. I'm a coach. And one of the things I've learned, Brian, and this is not a criticism, but it's an understanding my customer base. Most coaches are not business people. Most coaches.
Right. It's true.
Right? And even fewer are entrepreneurs. There are some that run camps and do things, and so name, image, and likeness really is entrepreneurial business. And so it's intimidating, especially if you don't have a background in it. And if you think that it's not for you because you're not coaching Power 4 football or Division I basketball, you're going to be even more adverse to it. So we've had to educate people. And to do that, I wrote a book called NIL for All. It's available on Amazon. It's a 30-minute paperback, and it basically covers the concepts that we've discussed today. And I have tried to make NIL relatable and attainable. Those are the two words that we use. So teaching coaches is definitely a part of what we do. We're getting more coaches interested because I challenge them with this. What are the consequences of not educating your audience, right? What happens if a kid missteps? What happens if you lose a recruit? What happens if you lose an assistant coach that's young and is more accepting of name, image, and likeness and wants to go to a program that has a better NIL program? And so the consequence of not educating yourself is severe. And we're starting to see that. And we're right on the beginning of it.
I can't see how high school federations or the high school governing bodies wouldn't be all over reaching out saying, hey, educate our body on this topic, because it is. I mean, it's ever changing for one, but for two, it's so misunderstood in so many aspects that I would think that state high school association, it doesn't matter what state it is, would have interest in the educational piece of it because they're educators. I mean, that's educational. Has any governing bodies reached out and said, hey, Mark, we'd love for you guys to come and do a seminar?
I've done some. We actually had a licensing deal with, I won't name the state, but a rather large state with 750 high school athletic administrators. We offered the course for free to the athletic administrators to educate them. Zero took it. Zero.
Are you serious? That's crazy.
And so if you think that entrepreneur business wall is there in college, it's a barrier beyond belief in high school. Think about the average high school coach. The average high school coach is not a business person or an entrepreneur. Right. They're a math teacher. They're a science, a world history teacher. Perhaps they're an insurance salesman that comes and volunteers or, works as a coach. But as a general rule, and again, because NIL has been perceived as only for the 2%, I get told on a regular basis by high school administrators, we don't have any Division I athletes in our high school. And nothing could be further from the truth that, we really don't care what level your kids are going to play in college. We want to educate everyone because NIL is for all.
And that's definitely a myth that's out there that, like you said, it's the 2%. It's the football, basketball, individuals. But, there's some Lily Dunn. Lily Dunn from gymnast from LSU. I mean, I don't know anybody who's capitalized on name, image, and likeness more than her. I mean, she's on national TV commercials. And, you would think that that's something that people would be a little more apt to understand, that just because football and basketball get all the play, on the networks, there's a lot of fans of softball. There's a lot of fans of lacrosse. And those individuals out there and in a community, there's a lot of college communities that are pretty tight-knit as well. Yep, got muted.
I think every athlete has some level of celebrity. We touched upon it. If you're a Division III, let's just use softball. Softball player, female, obviously, somewhere at some great school, you were probably the best player on your high school team, right? There are people that know you. So we teach 3 circles of brand building, and this will kind of feed into what you're asking and talking about. So what are the 3 circles of building a brand? Remember, brand is what people perceive you, how people perceive you. So the first is everyone starts their social media circle with a friends and family circle, right? Your cousins follow you, your uncle, maybe grandma's, watching on Facebook, something like that. And we should always say that you should always have a friends and family circle. But in the end, if I'm successful, it'll be the smallest of the 3 circles, because the second circle is your community circle. These are the people in your hometown that have followed you, watched you. You may not ever have met them. You don't know who they are, but they know who you are. They saw you interviewed. They saw you play. They saw you walk down the street. They recognize you in a restaurant. That community circle is a very powerful circle that we can help grow through storytelling. The third circle is your professional circle. This will be eventually your largest circle, but it will take the longest time and will be ultimately the last circle that you build. And that is your networking for relationships in professional life, particularly LinkedIn, which I'm a big advocate of, right? And so, I think that, the majority of people are finding a career, gaining information about a career, and making connections on LinkedIn today. And so those are the three circles: your friends and family, your community, and your professional. The first two, friends and family, community, are usually located where you went to high school. Why not leverage that with the insurance company? Remember, we said 60% of NIL deals are based on local businesses: the car wash, the landscaper, of course, the pizza store, sushi shop, the sandwich shop, right? Those are easy picking, low hanging fruit opportunities for the Division III athlete, Division II athlete.
That's me. I was going to ask you what social media platform is the most recommended, and obviously you said LinkedIn is a key, and I think that's. I mean, I talked to a young man that's a freshman in college yesterday, reaching out about some business opportunities, and I was super impressed because he didn't act like he was a freshman in college. He came across as a professional, which was amazing. Are there any other social media platforms that you find that are kind of on the top end for the student athletes?
I think each platform has its place. I think Twitter is typically for news, and there's some great people to follow on Twitter in the name, image, and likeness space. If you have professional opinions, if you're following, the legal aspects of it, there's lots of information on Twitter. TikTok is more for your peers, right? That's more of a younger social networking. I particularly like Instagram because you can show photos and video, and the majority of fan bases are built on video today. There is a stream of thought that YouTube is a great opportunity for those that want to get serious about media and create a podcast or create a following or monetize their following. YouTube is a great platform. So they all have their place. Most young people are on TikTok and Instagram. The more developed athletes are on YouTube and Twitter. And that's my assessment today.
That's awesome. It's fascinating. Mark, thank you so much. How can somebody, find out more information about your company?
Well, the name of the company is the Players NIL, and it's theplayersnil.com is our website. We have a free preview of our content. We have our podcast on there, our media page. There's lots of free information about what's going on. All social handles at the Players NIL. For those of you trying to build a professional network, follow me, Mark Koesterer, on LinkedIn. I post almost daily, and I have a large audience. So if you have a question, if you want to connect with me, if you want to communicate with me, I'll respond. And you can use my audience to force multiply your brand.
There you go. I love it. Mark Koesterer, the founder of the Players NIL on Just a Cup this week. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. The insightful information. If you are a high school or a college parent and you do not share this and listen to some of the information that you put, you're crazy. I learned a lot, and I'm still trying to learn. But Mark, thanks again for joining Just a Cup on Believe. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share, and we will get back with you on another time. Friends, have a great one.